So in the last video, what we did was a compression test. When we did the compression test, we found that this front cylinder on this Mule 2510 only had like 30 pounds of compression. So we pulled the valve cover off, and what we found was this push rod was off. And so I think what happened is these things, they got out of adjustment, the valves got out of adjustment, and they, the push rod fell out. So I loosened off the adjustment. This is you've got these are your adjusters right here. This nut is a lock nut, and then you turn this to adjust the valve clearance. And so I loosened off on this nut. It's a 9mm, and then it just loosened off on this by hand. It's a little square drive on here. It's a little square head on it. Maybe you have a socket that fits it, or a wrench that fits it. I do not. I used my hands and adjusted it, and then when we go to lock it on, we'll just gently hold on to it with a pair of pliers when we lock down the locking nut, just to make sure this doesn't turn. So there's four bolts that hold the valve cover on, 10mm. I just took those out, popped the valve cover off, and here's the valve cover. Looks good inside, no issues. I wasn't planning on doing this, so I don't have a gasket to go back. If you're planning on adjusting the valves, go ahead, order a new gasket. This one is still okay. I'll throw a little RTV on it just to make sure it seals, or I might just leave it and then come back, put it back on, and then come back later and replace the gasket. But like I said, they're easy to get off. It's 4 bolts. You don't have to remove anything to get to it. I did have the spark plug already out of it. You don't have to take the spark plug out to get to it or anything like that. I'm just saying, this is my compression gauge right here. Still threaded into the cylinder. So we're going to take this out. Well, my method, you will have to take it off. I don't know where the timing marks are on this thing. Evidently, I think there's a mark for a 1 and a 2. Looks like to get the cover off the front of the engine though, you might have to pull the drive shaft, the front drive shaft. If you've only got a 2-wheel drive, maybe you wouldn't have to do that, but I don't see any marks. There is a little opening in the cover, but I don't see any marks where that opening is. It looks like it's just a piece of the cover that's missing on mine. So what I'm going to do is, since I've already got the plugs out of it, I'm just going to find top dead center, you know, with the screwdriver or something down the plug hole. So we're going to take our compression gauge back out, and we can get it close by watching the valves. So what we're going to do, okay, so we've got valve opening, valve closing, and we got nothing, okay, opening again. So if you take your finger and you put it over the plug hole, it's hard to do that and turn the engine over. Let's see if I can switch fingers somehow. I need my right hand over here. All right. So it's pushing out. It feels like it's starting to suck in. It's pushing out, sucking in. So it's right in here somewhere. You're going to want to find the spot where it's pushing out air and then it's sucking in air. Kind of get it right in there. And then I've got a piece of it's just plastic vacuum line. You could use a little screwdriver or something, but we're just going to stick that in the hole, the spark plug hole, and then we're going to rotate. So you can see it just dropped in and it dropped in. So right that spot, you can kind of feel it in the crankshaft too. It's the spot right before you can feel the rod, because you got your crankshaft and you've got the rod around here, and the crankshaft of course is your crankshaft goes across, but the actual where the rods connect is offset from the crankshaft. It'd be like over here, and so because it goes like this, the crankshaft's spinning like this, but your rods are offset on the crankshaft like over here, so that rod is going like this, so you can feel the spot kind of like that where it's going from going up to going down. You can feel that spot right in the middle when you're rotating the crankshaft, and then you can see it, like I said, with the plastic tubing, and you can feel it. So you got kind of three ways of getting it close. You can feel it as you're coming up to it, and then as you got your finger on it, you feel as it goes from blowing air out to sucking air in, and that's where you want it in between. And then so that gets it close, and then you put your something down. I prefer something plastic down in the cylinder so that you're on top of the piston, and then you can rock it back and forth and get it right where it's supposed to be. So we know it's right where it's supposed to be. We've got the valves loose. We're going to go ahead and crank or crack open or crack loose the adjuster right here. I've already done this one, like I said. Man, somebody had that way too tight. Got something on the wrench. There we go. So that's loose, and we're going to back this off a little bit so we've got room to adjust. We hold the center part, and this is 10 thousandths adjustment on these. So we need to go tighter, a little bit looser, and right there is good. It's got just a little bit of drag on it. And so what we'll do, let's find, well, what we might can do, I'll hold it. These things get a little sloppy when they get, but instead of a pair of pliers, so can we do it with this? That worked. All right. So that was the intake, I think. Should have been the intake. We got the carburetor over here, exhaust over here. So I would assume this is the intake, this is exhaust. And they're both supposed to be set at 10 thousandths. So I have not. Oh yeah, I did back this one off a little bit, didn't I? No, I didn't back that part of it off. I backed the lock nut off. It definitely was loose, so we will turn that. It's quite a bit loose. Just a little bit of drag, maybe just a little bit more. There, that feels good. You want just where you can feel it kind of start to, you can get it in easily, but it's definitely not a sloppy fit. You can feel it pushing against the feeler gauge, you know. And no need to really, I mean, just get them tight. There's no need to, the locking nut, no need to, you don't want to strip these things out or break it off or anything like that. It doesn't require, 100 foot-pounds of torque. This valve cover gasket looks really good. I was debating whether I wanted to put some silicone on it. think don't know. I'm gonna just set it on there for right now, just to cover it up, and then we're gonna flip over to the other side. Okay. Hopefully y'all don't fall down. I kind of got y'all propped in a precarious manner, I guess. Let me grab some brake clean and spray that off. Make sure we don't. I'm about to drain the oil in it anyway. If you're following along in this video series on this thing, it's got a gasket on the front cover that's leaking coolant, and so I'm in the process of tearing it down to fix that. And I thought before I tear the front cover off, I should probably do a compression test on it to make sure we don't have an issue where we would need to, do rings or something like that, because we would need that cover off. Oh, I guess it's the back cover, it's not the front cover. So I've kind of got this thing already torn down. So I did the compression test, and this one had like 130, I think, and this is the back cylinder right here. So the back cylinder had 130, and the front cylinder had like 30. And so I pulled the valve cover off the front one. I was thinking maybe it had a blown head gasket or something, and saw that rocker arm, so I put it on there and just kind of put it on there loose. And when I did, the compression came up to like 270. So it's building a ton of compression. I don't know if that was the intake side that was off. So I think it should have been the intake. Anyway, so I don't know if we've got an issue on this cylinder, head gasket possibly, or something that's causing it to be less. I really don't know what the compression is supposed to be on this thing. I was surprised at 270. I guess they run a lot of compression on these. So on this back one, you've got a little wire loom hook. So I'm going to unhook that. It's for the spark plug wire. And then these are plastic, so don't be banging on them or anything to get them off. Just apply some pressure, they'll come off. So this engine, it looks really good inside. It's not sludgy, it's not even stained. I don't know if they just kept up with the maintenance on it, or if it's just or it doesn't have many hours on it. So we are gonna do, like I said, we will rotate this one around, we'll watch the valves, and we will feel on the spark plug hole. Okay, it's building pressure, and it's hard to tell, I got a glove on. Oh, I think I missed it. Building, sucking. So it's right in here. Let's see how close I got. Take our plastic. I could feel it. Like I said, I could feel it on the turning the crank. It's right there. So there's where our valve adjustment should be. I have not touched these, so let's just see how loose they are. I mean, that is a very sloppy fit. You can see how much it's wobbling even with my feeler gauge in there. So they're probably, maybe I should check. We'll see what they actually are. Let's go with like a, let's go with Let's see if a 15 thousandths will fit in there. Yep. They are probably right at 15 thousandths. Maybe just a little more. Probably about, that one's even looser. The exhaust is even looser. So probably about maybe 16 thousandths. I mean, that is definitely excessive. You know, that's a 50% change in the valve adjustment. So let's take our 9mm, and to break these loose, you get, if you're cranking on them from to me, I like cranking on them from right here, as close to straight up as you can, instead of going this way, because this way wants to kind of, I don't know, it seems like it wants to, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I prefer about right here. Break them both loose. And somebody seemed like they were super tight. All right, so we're gonna have to back off these nuts a little bit so that we've got room to adjust. Because we're gonna have to go tighter. So of course, it has to go down. So we will turn these down a little bit, and let's see. We got our 10 thousandths back out. It's still a little loose. It's a little, might be a little too tight. Let's back off just a hair. That, I think I bumped it a little bit. That feels right about, I'm going to say that's good right there. It's got just a little bit of drag on it. You can kind of see where it's just kind of scratching it just a little bit. And we are going to put a wrench here. Put our wrench here. Run that down by finger tight first. I know my glove's in the way, but hopefully you can see good on the other side. We're kind of competing for the same spot. And I guess I should double check it right here. Double check it real quick after we get it locked down. It's, I'm gonna say it's just a hair on the loose side, but yeah, it's got just a hair of drag. I'd normally put it just a little bit tighter, but I think that's gonna be good enough. We'll go back later since they were so far off. What I'll probably do is order valve cover gaskets for it, and I'll double check them then. Alright, so we've got that one too tight now. That one's a little bit on the loose side. That's a decent amount of drag. It might be a little bit tight. It's a little tight. So that's probably about right there. We'll hold it. We'll tighten that down. Let's just double check it. It's pretty good. And I need both our wrenches again. Put this one on. I'll try to stay out of y'all's view. Like I said, we did do the other side. No. Just trying to stay out of y'all's view, and I didn't give myself enough wrench, enough travel. Alright, so, and we'll double check that one. I don't think I double checked the other side, but I didn't put the valve covers on yet, so I'll go back and check it. So just a hair on the loose side. It looks like that once you crank them down, I'm sure it draws up the pitch of the thread just a little bit, you know. When you crank that down, it probably pulls it up just a little bit. And so you could probably put them a little bit on the tight side, like a tight fit on your feeler gauge, and then once you crank it down, it would probably be about perfect. So it's just a hair on the on the loose side. Just when I say a hair, I mean it's definitely has some drag to it. It doesn't fit sloppy in there or anything. So I think we're in good shape. Better too loose than too tight. So I think what we're going to do now, we're just going to set the valve cover back on it, and I'm going to run a compression check on this cylinder. Since this one was low before, well, low compared to the other side, we're going to check it again and see what it is. But that's pretty much it on the valve adjustment. It's quick and easy on these things. So let's see. No, our throttle cable has popped off over here as I bumped it there. Okay, we got our throttle open. We got like 200. Just over 200 on that one. And the other one was like 270. Maybe we should check the other one again. Now that we've got it properly adjusted. I'm gonna say if it's got 200 though, I can't imagine that being a blown head gasket. It's possible the other side hasn't been firing in a long time, and it's I don't know, maybe it's got junk under the rings, giving it a little tighter compression or something. I don't know, but I wouldn't think it could be a blown head gasket with 200 pounds of compression. Alright, so we're on the front cylinder. Let's see what it's got. Yeah, we got like 270. So I think what I'm going to do is just proceed on. I don't think we've got a rings issue or anything like that. If it does end up being a blown head gasket, I do not need to have the side cover off. To address that, you know, pull the head off, cylinder stays in there, or the piston stays in there, and we put a new head gasket on it. So I think I'm going to leave it be, and I think after it runs a while, I think they are going to equalize out a little bit. That other cylinder has probably been gas washed quite a bit if it hasn't been firing, so it probably may have cleaned up some carbon and stuff on the rings on that side. Who knows? The back cylinder has been doing all the work. So, you know, it's had some extra stress on it. We could have rings issue on it, but I don't really want to get into that right now. So I think we're gonna let it go for now, and we will see what it's like once we get it back up and running again. And we know we've got the valves adjusted correctly now, and we know they both have. I think it would be fine, you know, if this thing was a single cylinder and you had one that had either 200 or you had one that had 270. But to have one that's got 210-ish or 200 and another one's got 270, you know, that's over 30% difference. That's getting a little excessive on, I think you want between like max of 10 to 20% or something like that. So we're definitely, we've got too much of a variance between those two cylinders. 70 pounds of compression is a lot. We've got 35% or so difference between the two cylinders, so that's not good. But I have a feeling, like I said, that might change after this thing runs a little bit. So let's see what happens after we run it. We might check it again. What I might do is just clean these plugs up. I was going to put new plugs in it, but I don't have them yet. I might clean these plugs up, put them back in it, and we'll change the plugs at a later date and check compression again and see what it looks like. So as far as the valve covers, they go back on just like they came off. Like I said, if you were going to do this, if you were planning on adjusting the valves, go ahead and buy new valve cover gaskets. They're not expensive, and definitely don't want oil leaks. Like I said, I do not have them. I do not have a local Kawasaki dealership that's within a reasonable driving distance to me. So I'm kind of at the mercy of ordering parts, and I don't have any ordered, so we're gonna just pop these back on. I'm not gonna film that. They came off just like they go back on just like they came off. I might just clean that off just a little bit and throw just a little bit of silicone on there, but I think they would probably seal fine without it. So thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more, and follow along on this project. I picked this Mule up, if you haven't watched from the beginning. I picked it up fairly cheaply, and it definitely had some issues, so we're working through those.